Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Headbangers Closet. Hope everyone's had a good week so far and ready for the weekend. Just want to kind of do a quick video here and share my thoughts and feelings a little bit on Megadeth's news that this next album is going to be their final album, and their farewell tour will start in 2026. Unknown length of that tour, but yeah, they're calling it a career, and I heard that the rumblings, obviously the countdown calendar, or the little countdown clock rather, started on Wednesday with some, lyrics, and a lot of people were kind of speculating, is it like a Rust in Peace kind of like, reissue or something like that. Some people are like, oh, it's going to be a tour, but they're going to do Rust in Peace. I think they already did that. I know they already did that. But, there was a lot of speculation, but I think most people kind of had an idea they were going to call it quits. And when the news broke yesterday with a really, really cool, video they put on Facebook, their Facebook page on their website, and then, of course, what I think is going to be the album cover for this last album with Vic Rattlehead in the white suit and tie with the flames on one side of him. Looks really, really cool. I really dig the white, by the way. I thought that was kind of neat. But I kind of think, everybody kind of speculated that was going to be the case. And even though that was confirmed, I still feel really, sad, bummed out. Selfishly, I'd like them to be able to continue. I'm such a huge fan of the band. But I think it's also well-deserved. And let's face facts. At this point in their career, it's Dave. It's Dave Mustaine, right? So, and he's got some health problems. We all know, the thing with the hand years ago. He wasn't sure if he could play again. And then the cancer from a couple years ago. So he's definitely got some health stuff going on. And, he wanted to go out on his terms and call it quits when they were basically on top of their game. And I commend that. I think a lot of bands that haven't been able to do that wish they could do it that way. But, selfishly, I wish they could continue because I'm such a huge fan. I mean, I got into them in, 88, 89, and I'll be 50 years old next Wednesday. So we're talking, I'm not a math whiz by any stretch of imagination, but like 3/4 of my life I've been a fan of this band. So, totally cliche to say, the soundtrack of my youth and everything, but I will say the soundtrack of my life. I mean, they've been a part of me since I was, 88. So what is that, like 13, 12 to 13 years old? They've been a huge part of my life. I mean, I got into the band because, like a lot of people, I'm sure, I was listening to Metallica, and so I'm like, well, if you like Metallica, there was this guy that used to be in the band that kicked out. His name's Dave Mustaine, and he's in Megadeth. And of course, I knew Megadeth was because, like, a lot of the kids I hung out with also listened to Megadeth. And, back in those days, in the 80s, the Megadeth shirts and, the Iron Maiden and Judas Priest, they were as prevalent as any other metal band shirts, And so obviously I listened to them. I got into the band and, became a big fan. But strangely, my very first concert was way late. It was in 1997. It was on the Cryptic Writings tour, and here's the ticket stub. To Great Woods, which is an outdoor amphitheater in Mansfield, Massachusetts. I don't know what the corporate name for it is now. They all got corporate names, right? But it'll always be Great Woods outdoor amphitheater in my mind. This was Friday, August 15th, 1997, on the Cryptic Writings tour. Very first time seeing Megadeth. And then I saw him again less than a year later on Friday, January 16th, 1998. This was the Orpheum Theater in Boston. And then I saw them again. This is what I chose because it was kind of a notable show. This is the Strawberries Music and Tapes ticket. When they weren't doing Ticketmaster, you got them at Strawberries Music and Tapes. So this one was on Lansdowne Street, which is behind Fenway Park. If you watch baseball, dude hits a home run over the Green Monster. It lands on Lansdowne Street, right? So a lot of clubs and restaurants and bars. Fans go and watch the games. But there's also some music venues. Aerosmith had a club called Mama Kin's, and then the Avalon Ballroom. So this was, October 12th, 2001, and this was on the after the Risk tour. I think it was either right before The World Needs a Hero or maybe supporting that album. I really don't remember. But one kind of interesting note about that show, it started really early. And we were out by 9:30. I remember leaving the club, and there was all these college kids lined up to get in. They were like the club, the dance club kids. And I remember just all the girls hardly had anything on, like mini skirts and bikini tops, and that's pretty much it. And they were going in so they could party up till 3 o'clock in the morning at the dance club while we did the early stuff for the metal show. And I kind of remember thinking, like, I kind of remember being pissed about it. But then on the drive home, I'm like, that's actually a really good, like, marketing, like, for the owners. Like, you just make all this money from the two groups of people. I don't know. I thought it was kind of neat. But that's kind of an interesting sideshow to this. But those are the first 3 times I saw Megadeth. And then I moved to Georgia, and I've probably seen him in Georgia maybe 20 times since I've moved here. The last one being the best show for Megadeth I've ever seen. Which was last August in Macon, Georgia, a really small outdoor amphitheater. Why they played Macon, Georgia, I don't really know. They probably could have played Atlanta and got a few thousand more people to show up because it was on a Friday night. But they played Macon, and I mean, it was packed out. They could have fit more people there, obviously, but I thought it was a fairly packed out show for Macon. And talk about set list. We're talking the greatest set list I've ever heard. It was almost as like Dave called me before the show and said, give me like 15 songs that you want to hear. And that's what they played. And that's how awesome it was. I did a video. I bought this shirt at the show. I did a video for the show. So if you want to check it out, it was like my review. And I went over the set list and everything like that. But if you want to check it out, it's like a year ago. Last August it was. The end of August last year. But awesome show. And, since the news broke yesterday, I've been talking to friends on social media, and some people like, there was a time like, the mid 2000s, maybe like, 2010 or whatever, where, Dave just wasn't sounding good. And I get it, a lot of bands have that. They go through that era of their careers where they're just not like, I guess maybe I don't want to say mailing it in, but they're kind of resting on their laurels, they're resting on their success and knowing that the fans are going to love it no matter what. But, I think Megadeth really kind of stepped it up the last couple times I saw them. Ever since the last record, The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead, I saw them open up for Five Finger Death Punch, and I left after Megadeth. I was like, I don't need to see Five Finger Death Punch, but I thought they sounded great. I thought they played a great show. They looked great. They looked like they were having fun. And then, of course, last August, again, they looked great. They sounded great. They were firing on all cylinders. So this whole retirement news, kind of comes as a shock. I still think they can bring it, but like I said earlier, well-deserved. Dave wanted to go out on top, and he has that right. He's been doing it 43 years, I think it is, and he's been on top of the game the whole time, so he deserves it. But, like I said, selfishly, I wish they would continue. But I promised myself I'd make every effort to see as many shows on the farewell tour as I can. He's got a book coming out later this year, or maybe early 2026. So maybe one day I'll meet him. I had a meet and greet, and then COVID ruined that. It canceled the tour. When they rescheduled, they didn't come to Atlanta, and then I kind of seen, some meet and greets just kind of weren't really worth the money. You didn't really get like photos, just them, and then the fans all together way in the back. You just kind of didn't really seem, all that great. So, but maybe I'll do one this go round. I think I maybe owe it to myself to do it. Just kind of tell Dave what, huge influence he's been in my life, and thank him for basically my whole life of just being awesome and having great music for me to listen to. So really, really appreciate that. But yeah, man, I don't really have much else to show. I would like to maybe have him sign the 12-inch single to Normal Mr. Nice Guy. I love all the Vic Rattlehead stuff, but this is my favorite. So don't have a lot to show you guys. Really didn't think it was much of a showing video, but just wanted to show this because I think it's, I love this artwork. So maybe I'll have him sign that single. And, as far as the other guys in the band, obviously there's a lot of guys from the past that are still alive. There's a handful of them that have passed away. My favorite of which being Nick Menza. But maybe, Dave will find a way to get some of the surviving members of the band from the past involved, like Marty Freeman and a lot of other guys, obviously. Definitely Dave Ellefson. I really feel he should be involved. I feel he deserves to be involved. I know there's a lot of stuff going on there. And I'm fairly certain Dave's pretty pissed off at him for this last interview he just did. But I feel that Ellefson deserves to be there. I mean, he's a huge part of the band. He's one of the founding members of the band. And I feel that a lot of these guys maybe should at least get like a cameo, right? Just kind of cement that their contribution to the legacy of Megadeth. But, that's just me. I'm going off the rails here. I'm going on a tangent. So I really don't want to make this video longer than it needs to be. But those are my thoughts on the Megadeth announcement that this next studio album will be their last, and then their farewell tour. So yeah, definitely just kind of recap. saddened, bummed, depressed about it, but not really surprised. And I feel that Dave deserves to go out on his own terms, and this is it. So anyway, leave me a comment down below your thoughts about the retirement, your thoughts about the band. You're gonna try to see this tour, this farewell tour, and maybe I'll try to maybe meet up with some of you guys. Maybe that's what I'll do. Like when we get the announcement, maybe like go up, George, you're in Jersey, go see a show. Mark, the two Marks in Canada, Toronto, Montreal. Maybe I'll go watch a show with you guys. Get to kind of experience a last tour with you guys, kind of in the VC, celebrate it together, right? I think that'd be pretty cool. So leave me a comment down below. You guys plan on going to this farewell tour, and let me know your thoughts on the retirement. So appreciate everybody checking out the channel. Gives my garage beer cheers to Dave Mustaine, Dave Ellefson, Marty, all the surviving members of Megadeth, all the past members of Megadeth who are no longer with us. Cheers, guys. Thank you for all the years of amazing music. I really appreciate it, and we'll always be listening to the day I die. Cheers, everybody. Have another video for you guys very soon.